Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay, a podcast focusing on meditation, the near-death experience, and all things spiritual. Hello, this is Jay Spillers. My special guest today is Mary Rogers. Mary, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Jay. How are you?
I'm doing great. So why don't you
Good.
tell us about your near-death experiences?
Okay, well, this day after Christmas, this year, it'll be 22 years since my brain aneurysm. I had 4 of them, 1 blue and the other 3 were inoperable. And I was in a coma in and out of a coma for 3.5 months. And I died and came back, and it's been a journey, to say the least. My experience, I don't even know where to start it. I was at a treatment facility to wean from a psychotropic medication. And I got very, very sick. I started to have horrific migraines, terrible nausea, vomiting, just very sick. And they had to move me to the hospital portion of the treatment facility. And I'd met some friends there, and I'd looked out my window and I saw them all playing basketball. And I said, maybe if I just get a little air, I'll be okay. And I went outside, and a friend of mine came up to me and asked me how I was doing. And in that moment, when she asked me, it felt like somebody took a gun right to my third eye and shot me straight in the head, and everything blew up. An ambulance was called, and in the ambulance, I could see myself separating from my body, and it was very dark. I looked around and I said, am I dead? And I choose to call this voice God. I hear, no, keep walking. So I kept walking. And as I continued to walk through this very dark, I'm not going to say a tunnel because it wasn't a tunnel, it was just very dark surrounding me. I came upon the most incredible field of Gerber daisies. Those are my favorite flowers, and they were every color of the rainbow. And just like Alice in Wonderland, they were bigger than me, and they were swaying in the breeze. And I said, maybe I'll just go sit on this field for a little bit and take a rest. So I went on the field and I sat down, and I turned around, and I don't know if you know what the tree of life is, but there was this beautiful tree of life, the olive tree. And I just was in awe of how beautiful it was. And all of a sudden I see Jesus peeking his head behind the tree. And I went, oh my God, is that Jesus? Sure enough, walked down to where I was sitting. We did not talk like you and I are talking. It was all telepathically. He put his hand out to mine, and I put my hand in his. And just as that happened, I split again. I split. A part of me was going down to this beautiful brook with Jesus, and the other part of me was sitting in this field. And I was just observing myself with Jesus, and took me to this beautiful brook. And the only way I can describe it is it was like crystal liquid water. It wasn't too hot and it wasn't too cold. It was, I like to call it a Goldilocks feel. It was just right. And I was sitting on the field and watching him, and he was washing my feet. And he asked me, do you want to go back? And I said, yeah, I'll go back. And he said, you need to know there's great suffering if you go back. And I said, listen, it's all good. I'm bipolar. I get suffering. I understand it. He said, no, you don't understand. And he pulled me in even closer. And he said, if you choose to go back, you must know that there is great suffering. I said, that's okay. I'll go back. And on the third and final morning, I said yes again. And I was catapulted through the universe, the Milky Way, the planets, the galaxy, zooming at lightning speed, it felt like. And I slammed back into my body in the hospital. And there was such agony and such pain. I was paralyzed on my right side. I couldn't walk or talk. I had to learn how to do all that stuff again. And I said, are you shitting me? Can I please come back? I was just kidding. I was just kidding. You've made your choice. And it's been a journey since then. There are many things. There's almost, not daily, but I would say on a frequent enough basis, there are things that happened in heaven, and I choose to call it maybe the outskirts of heaven. I didn't see angels. I didn't see family, but I could hear them. I could hear, it's like when you go to a concert and you hear everybody having a conversation. It was that kind of massive amounts of spirits, people talking, and I could hear them. And I could hear choirs of angels, not just one choir, but many choirs of angels singing in the most incredible harmony that I've ever heard. And I did continue to walk, and I came upon this, I'll just call it a library. It kind of looks like the White House. It had big pillars and, you know, very staunch, strong stone building. And I opened the door and I walked inside, and there were what seemed like millions of books in this library. And I put my hand across all these books. And as I put my hand across these books, I could feel the information going into my body. And it was all knowing, all encompassing. I just knew everything, and it was so simple, so simple. And I didn't remember a whole lot of my experience in the beginning, but it continues to piece together. My most recent understanding and knowledge that I've gotten is when I came back here to Earth, my walk then began with the Catholic saint of my understanding as a child. And it was a ferocious, ugly, slobbering beast. And I lived with that beast for 20 years. Became my companion, if you want to call it that. It was a very lonely walk. I'm a mother of one, and my boyfriend at the time, and now husband, tried to explain to them what was going on with me, but you know what? It sounds crazy. It sounds literally crazy. So I've had to keep a lot of that inside to protect other people. But within the last, I would say, 3 weeks that I've been down here in Florida, I had a dream. And that beast came to me and he said, I am you. I have been your protector all of your life. I came from a horrifically abusive childhood, and where there was no protection. I was perfectly fine having the beast separate from me, if you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Perfectly fine with that. But to integrate that beast as an actual protector is what got me and saved my life, I think, when I was a child. So this is only 3 weeks old, Jay. So I have no idea what's going to transpire from all of that, but I'm not terrified anymore. I'm not terrified and loathing of myself. There's been a real embracing of there's light and dark within all of us. That's my belief anyway. And then it's going on all the time in this human experience. So mark my words, though, there's absolutely evil, demonic spirits. I have no question in my mind about that whatsoever. It's just, it took a different form for me. It became my protector. And I'm still integrating that, and I don't know what that all looks like. It's brand new. So when stuff is brand new like that, I have to kind of assimilate it and think about it and journal about it and see what happens. But I was put in a transitional home after I was released from the hospital after 7 months. I had to do rehab, grueling rehab, very painful rehab. My body was in agony most of the time. And learning how to walk and talk and living in a transitional home with other brain injured folks. Not being able to be with my then boyfriend and living with him and feeling the safety of that. It was just a level of hell that I still don't really quite have the words for. But I'm grateful to be here. I'm glad I made the choice that I did. And it continues to unfold in front of me in all kinds of ways that are very, very unexpected. So I think there's good news down the road, though, for me. Real good news. There's peace. I can feel it. It's been a struggle. But I understand that for me, it was very important to understand human suffering from a cellular level, so that I could help and assist others who are suffering in whatever form that takes for them. I can be there. I can be there with them. Kind of feel like I've been in the battlefield and in the trenches where bombs are going off, and I'm getting people and I'm going, it's okay, you can duck under here, it's all good. I'll protect you. It just feels like I've been in battle for a very, very, very long time, and I'm just beginning to come down from that. Just beginning. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it till it changes.
So do you think maybe you had a near-death experience partly because of trauma? Because I hear a lot of near-death experiencers live through trauma first, and it sort of opens the gateway to have an NDE if you
absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And a lot of the abuse that took place for me, much of it was outside. And so I was never anybody who enjoyed hiking or being out in the outdoors. It felt dangerous to me to be outside. And that's my birthright. And most of my near-death experience, all I saw was beauty and nature. You ever seen the National Geographic channel?
Mm-hmm.
With just landscape after landscape, beauty after beauty, fountains and waterfalls, and the greenery and the smell is so sweet. I think God in his infinite wisdom said, we're going to make nature safe for you again. And that's exactly what's been happening for me, is that I love being outside now. I love nature. I can't believe I was cut off from it for so long.
So in terms of like the tree of life, what did the tree of life look like? Was there fruit on it, or?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, ancient, old, rooted. You could see the roots of it, bark, and the willowing, just the beauty of it going in the breeze. It's very, very hard to describe, but very old and very wise. It holds so much wisdom. So I'm all about trees. I love trees. I didn't used to love trees, but I love trees now. I love nature now. It's kind of cool and exciting to go, oh, well, it took you 58 years to get here, but you're here now. And I don't want to miss any more. I don't want to miss any more opportunity to be and commune with nature.
You feel like
I never understood.
Oh, go ahead.
I just never understood why, all my friends, I had great friends, thank God, but they were all, sports nuts and outside all the time, wanting to go hiking and biking. And I'm like, whoa, no, thank you. No. And now I understand. Now I understand why nature is so vital. It's like we are nature. We are universe. We are a part of this massive collective. And it's incredible, Jay. It's incredible.
What did Jesus look like?
Okay, I don't know. Do you know who the artist Akiana Kermack?
Yeah.
That's about as close as I could get. When Jesus came down, he didn't have long hair like the Jesus of my understanding. He didn't look anything like it. And when he took my hand and I stood up, I looked in his eyes and I could see the entire universe in his eyes. What color were they? If I were to have to describe it here on earth, they would be hazel. But, he had the universe in his eyes, and every culture, every nationality in one face. I didn't know how that was possible. Handsome? Oh, Lordy. The beauty of this man was, I don't have words to describe.
Yeah, I've heard other near-death experiences talking about he looks like the Prince of Peace picture that you did.
Totally. That was for me. I remember going to Heaven is for Real, a movie about the 4-year-old boy who was in a coma, and his father was a pastor. And so my daughter went and I went and saw that movie. And the moment, the minister kept saying, is this Jesus? Is this Jesus? Is this Jesus? And the little boy kept saying, no, no, no. And Akiana was on a computer. And Akiana's painting of Jesus came up. And the little boy went, there's Jesus. And when that little boy pointed at that painting, I thought I was going to die again. I thought I was going to just fall in the middle of the aisle and have a heart attack. It was stunning, the resemblance for me. I'd never been able to describe it. And because it was not the Jesus of my Catholic upbringing. I didn't, that was not the Jesus that I bumped into. Although he did have sandals, kind of like a gauze material, and a rope around his waist. Kind of like what a peasant might wear. But oh my God, the beauty and the peace that emanated from this man was, I'm looking forward to that peace again. I really, really am. And quiet, peace and quiet.
Did you feel love coming from him?
No. OMG. There's no human words for this level of love. You are loved. And I said it, even in my experience, I said, oh my God, even Hitler is loved here. Even Hitler could be loved here. So I remember saying that in my experience. And God doesn't make garbage. There's a purpose for each and every one of us, and each and every insect, and each and every slithery thing that we seem like is scary serves a purpose. There's a purpose for absolutely everything. I used to kill insects constantly. I don't touch those little guys anymore. If there's an insect in my house, I scoop it up on a piece of paper and I put it outdoors. I was never like that before. Kill the bastard. Kill them. They aren't worth anything. I don't do that anymore. Not with human life, not with insect life, not with animal life. And although I didn't see animals, I didn't see family, I didn't see angels, but I heard them and I could feel them in my entire being. And the knowing of, oh, I'm not seeing all of this right now. Nature was what I needed to see. At least that's what I think God saw fit. He wanted me to love nature again. And boy, do I love nature.
And
Can't get enough of that, actually.
What I've been thinking about too, meditating on, is I think the core essence of every person is love. They may be doing a lot of dark things, but even someone like Hitler or Stalin, their core essence is still love.
It's still love. Thank you for that, Jay, because that's a tough one to describe. But the truth of the matter is there's just no garbage out there. It can get us mad, it can get us frustrated, it can get us, judgmental, it can get us all kinds of things. But for me, and I'm just speaking for me, I look at humanity and the whole cycle of life and how it works like day and night difference. Every human being I meet, every animal I encounter, every child I encounter, it's like, if I can just emanate love the way it was emanated to me, I think I'm doing a good job.
So do you think like what you saw in heaven was specially created or prepared for you?
I do. I do. And I think it's that way for everyone. It's my understanding that God is going to show up in ways that only we would understand. So someone in Africa or Portugal or whatever, God is going to show up to them in something that they understand. And for me, it was reconnecting with nature and beauty again. So.
Did you have a life review?
I didn't. I'm kind of bummed about that. A little ripped off. I'm like, where was my life review? Because I mean, I'm a really nice person at the core of who I am, but I've done some really not okay things in my life, and I didn't get to see that. But I'll tell you what, the suffering that I came back to, it's kind of like, who needs a life review when you're living it, sister?
Mm.
Yeah. So I think it comes with a warning label, you know. If you choose to do unkind acts, it's going to come back to you and you are going to feel the impact of that. That's my experience, Jay. I don't know other near-death experiencers who, you know, what their experience is. And I even remember reading the book Saved by the Light by Dan and Brinkley when I was 20, 22, and I was so fascinated by his story. And I was like, oh, that lucky bastard getting to go to heaven. And, you know, listen, it's hard work. Be careful what you wish for. That's my 2 cents. Just be careful.
Did you get to ask Jesus anything when you were there?
Let me just think about that for a second. No, because I just answered him. He was just warning me, because I had every chance to stay. And it was very clear, and still is very clear. Oh, you don't understand. You don't understand. And he was right. I didn't understand at all what I was up against. I was only 40. My daughter was 18 at the time, and she had to make the decision to keep me on or off the respirator. She kept me on. I woke up 2 weeks later. But that's been quite the journey too. She's suffered horrifically in her young life. She's going to be 40 in June. She had triple negative breast cancer, and we almost lost her. And so our relationship is much different than it used to be. It's much deeper. Matter of fact, she's going to be coming down from Connecticut the end of April, and we're going to be driving back to Vermont together. So we're going to have a mother-daughter road trip, and I'm kind of psyched about that. Just to see what comes up. This isn't a subject that we talk about much. She has a faith, she has a deep faith, but when it's coming from your mom, there's something different about it. So I'm highly respectful of her journey, not to influence her with my stuff, because it's my stuff.
Did you ever get a feeling on hell? Because like, if even Hitler is deeply loved and cherished, does that impact the belief in hell?
I didn't get to bump into any firing inferno anywhere. I mean, as I was telling you, I came back and I thought that the beast was actually Satan up until 3 weeks ago. So there was a separateness. But do I believe that there is a hell? I'm going to have to say, yeah. I just didn't see it. I walked with it for 20 years, but I didn't see it. I also believe there are different levels. My husband and I lived in a beautiful property with a pond with turtles, and I was going out one day to feed the turtles, and I looked up into the sky, and the sky parted, and I saw dimension after dimension after dimension. The levels, I just was blown away. I had no idea in my Christian understanding of things There's one heaven. There's one. No, that's not what I saw. It changed. It kind of frustrated me. It's like, well, I thought it was this way and it's not. So my faith runs deep, but it shifts all the time into all these new awarenesses and new understandings of things. And I feel incredibly fortunate not to be nailed down to just, this is the way it is. And, there's no budging me. I've been budged so many times, I don't even know how to count anymore. So I go like this. But I do believe there is a hell.
I know one person that I had read about, she had committed suicide and was told that hell functions more like a purgatory, that it's more about restoration and not just endless torment.
It just wasn't my experience. I had endless torment for 20 years. So until 3 weeks ago, that beast was separate from me. But that beast became my protector and what's actually kept me alive as a child. So it's a little bit of like talking out of two sides of my mouth, just a little bit, because I was shocked. I was actually shocked. I was perfectly fine keeping Satan right where he needed to be. And God gave me another gift.
But so you still think of the beast as Satan, maybe not just an angel with a different form?
That's a good question. Because that form became me. I integrated that form inside of me and have tremendous gratitude that I had a fierce protector that I do believe that God gave me as a child. I just didn't recognize it in my adulthood. I didn't recognize it. And there's an artist friend of mine. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, do you think that beast may be like a deeper part of your soul?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. There's choice here, we got choice all the time. We can go to the dark side of stuff. We can stay right in the middle and know that we're human and make mistakes, or we can go completely to the light, which I think extremes in any excess are an issue. So I like to kind of stay right here in the middle and know that I am not perfect and know that I am a human and that I continue to make mistakes, have thoughts that are probably not appropriate, especially when I'm angry. But to know that that's part of the whole totality and that I can make a choice. Do I want to stay in that? Or do I want to live more in the middle? For me, living in the middle is where it's at. Understanding that both dark and light exist has been tremendously helpful for me.
So what were you saying about your artist friend?
Oh, yes. So he is a phenomenal pen and ink artist. And I reached out to him about a month ago and asked him if he would be willing to draw the beast for me. And he said, absolutely, because there's a Viking aspect to this beast. There's a raw, ugly, growling, horrifying animal, half I don't even know what to say about it. But I'm really looking forward to describing this beast to him and having him put on paper what I've been seeing for the last 21 years. It will be good to get that representation out there for me.
Be sort of like a police sketch of the suspect.
Completely. That's it. That's a perfect analogy, Jay. Perfect. Thank you. It's true.
Mhm.
Only the suspect is me.
Yeah.
Go figure. Go figure. Yeah.
Did you spend much time in the library looking around?
All I can tell you is that I just continually felt the books. I just would run my hands over it. It was massive. And you know how in a really large building, if you say a word, it echoes and echoes and echoes and echoes. And that's what it was. I was blown away at the information that was coming into my body. I was completely like, what is this? I know everything. And it's so simple. And it kept going and going and more information and more information. And that hasn't transpired into anything except that I have an inner knowing. Hopefully at some point that too will reveal itself. I don't know when or how, but I have a trust that I didn't go into this library for, a joke. This was an important piece of my experience, and I want to honor it.
Do you think it might have been
So,
the Akashic Records?
I know it was. I had no idea what the name of that was, but I worked with a healer who is tremendously knowledgeable. And she said, oh, you were in the Akashic Library. And I said, what is that? She said, Hall of Wisdom. It's where all the mystics, where all the answers to life lie. And I went, oh, well, that makes perfect sense to me. That made perfect sense. Like, oh, is that why I really was receiving the information? And I wanted more information and more information, which is why I kept putting my hands across the books, because every book contains something individual and something specific. And it was mind-blowing, Jay. It really, really was.
But it's probably like you can't remember a lot of specific things from it at this point.
Just the feeling that I get in my physical body now of just of like being hooked up to a computer and having rapid information being fired into your system. That's what it feels like in my body. So I'm trusting that at some point, some of that information is going to come out. Some of that information I'm gonna go, oh yeah, that's right. That's what that meant. It's not here yet, but I believe the way that things have gone for me, that will happen. I don't know when though. I don't know when.
So before your near-death experience, you had some exposure to the NDE because you said you read Danny and Brinkley's book.
Because I read the book. That was my only exposure to near-death experiences, was reading his book, and I was gobbling it up. I think I read that in like a day. I was just so fascinated. But it was setting me up for what was to come. And it was really helpful. It was really helpful for me.
So how do you view like God and religion? Because it seems like a lot of what would be in Christianity would be confirmed to be true, but maybe God is bigger than any one religion per se, but a lot of religions have truth in them. He's just bigger than any one.
Right.
He can't be enclosed by a religion.
I have a brother who is a staunch, very Catholic, and we've had conversations before. And I said, your God and my God are the same. The God that I bumped into was love, and the Catholic God that I grew up with was one to be feared and reprimanded by. I didn't get any of that with this God. None. So religion, that doesn't fit for me. It just doesn't fit for me. And I will say that during Christmas Eve, I love going to the Catholic Church and receiving the body and blood of Christ. I just think that is the coolest ever. So I think each religion holds something of truth about God. And for me, having the body and blood of Christ is quite fulfilling and a beautiful ritual and representation of Christ. I have a really, really tight relationship with Christ. He's with me all the time. In my darkest despairs, he's right there. So it's incredibly comforting.
Did your experience direct you towards a healing ministry or?
Yes, definitely. Specifically, the feet. When I was, it took me about 4 years to rehab, and I said, I got to do the feet. I have to do something with the feet. And so, in our world, why don't you go to cosmetology school? So I was 44. I went to cosmetology school. I went to aesthetic school, which is all the facial stuff, because it's very peaceful. It's very peaceful doing a facial. It's very peaceful doing a pedicure. And so I licensed my house. I had the board of cosmetology come in, and she looked at my certificates on the wall, and she pointed to my pedicure station. She said, "What's that over there?" And I said, "Oh, that's my pedicure station." And she goes, "Well, where's your cosmetology license?" And I hadn't gotten it at that point. And I said, "What do you mean cosmetology? I learned how to do this in aesthetic school." And she goes, "No, you have to get your cosmetology license." So I went on the journey of having to get the aesthetic license, the cosmetology license, which led me to reflexology school, which I took in Massachusetts at a place called Lenox. It was in Lenox, Massachusetts, Kripalu. It's a huge ashram of yoga and alternative healing modalities, and reflexology happened to be one of the courses that they were offering. And man, once I got a hold of that, there was no stopping me. I absolutely can't get enough of the feet, Jay. Yep.
Do you think that's why you
have a client
washed your feet? Oh, go ahead.
No, I have a client who I work with that he said, "I think I need another tune-up. I need another tune-up. Need another tune-up." So I give tune-ups. Nice little oil change, get the body all lubricated again. And it's truly a passion. I absolutely love doing what I do, And yeah.
You think that's why Christ washed your feet in heaven? Because that's what you would
Well,
ultimately go into work with?
it seems to make sense to me. That's the only thing I can kind of put together, is that it was so beautiful to have him wash my feet. And I even remember, I don't remember which pope it was, the one before this pope, but he washed feet. And I just thought that was the most incredibly sacred thing to do. So I think I was getting my mission as huge suffering that was going to be involved. I think God was also giving me my mission, which was to tend to people's feet. So, and that's what I love doing. So, you know, there are near-death experience people that get a specific mission to come back to. I think mine was all sensed and felt, not specifically told, oh, this is what you're going to do when you go back. Because I had to get through the suffering first. I had to get through that dark night of the soul before I could do anything.
Well, besides pedicures, what specifically do you do with feet?
Well, I'm a Reiki master, so I do energy work. I do sound healing, which is with crystal bowls. I use tuning forks because the tones in your body are a map and an indicator of what kinds of things can be released. When trauma happens, sound is very powerful at releasing those. So, accompanied with the energy work and the sound work and the reflexology, it's just all a formula for TNT for healing. It really, really is. And I get it done, Jay. I get it done. Wherever the human needs me to be, I'm there.
So like with sound work, do you use a lot of frequencies?
Yes. Yes. And that's how, I mean, that's our nervous system. It's made up of tones. And when tones are utilized on the body, there's that frequency that resonates, and it can break up blockages and open new channels for the blood to flow and the fluids to flow the way that they're supposed to. And although I had a lot of school and attended a great deal of class, there was an intuitive knowing about this work that was so simple to me and straightforward. School was just something that this earthly stuff that we have to do. But intuitively, I think I've even known deeply that I was gonna take one for the team when I was a little kid. I think I knew that I wanted to work for God. That wasn't a joke, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel really lucky and fortunate and incredibly blessed to be doing the work that I do. It's a gift.
So like with Reiki, are you into meditation too?
Yep, most certainly do. All of it is important. Into whatever I can do to get as close of a connection to the God of my understanding, that's where I go. The closest I can get to that frequency, that feeling, that wisdom, I partake in it as much as I can. You know, meditation can be frustrating for sure. It's not an easy thing to learn how to meditate. It takes enormous amounts of practice. And because we get distracted. Being back on this earth, I'll tell you what, there's so many distractions. It's easy to get sidetracked, you know. And for me, my job is focus. It's, you know, putting as much attention and focus on what's needing to happen in the moment. Not 3 months from now, not 2 days from now, but right here, right now, in the moment, which is a place that I never used to live. I was either 10 years in my past or I was 20 years in my future. I was never right here, right now. And that's exactly where I am. And, in my opinion, where we as a culture need to be, is right here and right now.
Do you feel,
Too easy to do.
yeah, do you
Go
hear
ahead.
Christ or God?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a incredibly close and sacred relationship with Christ. I wouldn't trade that for the world. Nobody can take that from me. Nobody. No matter how many like negative comments or people's opinions, or she's full of it, or whatever that happens to be, nobody takes that away from me. That relationship is sacred. And I honor it every moment of every day.
So is there any projects you're working on? Are you writing a book or anything? Or?
You know, I have been asked more times than I care to count, Mary, you have to write a book. 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 And I'm like, okay, I'll write a book, but a book hasn't shown up yet, Jay. I think it might be a helpful book. I don't have, my brain doesn't have a good layout of what that looks like, because it's going to be mixed with trauma, and it's going to be mixed with my upbringing of Catholicism, and it's going to be mixed in what my experience was. So kind of chopping all of that down takes an enormous amount of work. And I get to retire this year in December. It was either to retire at 62 or retire at 67. I thought, I got a lot of work to do, so I'm going to take early retirement and see what happens. I'm making no promises, but I think that from what people have asked me, and people want to know. People want to know other people's experiences. People want to know that there's hope. And if I can provide that, and it doesn't make me feel crazy, you know, like I'm pushing my brain too much, it's got to flow. All I know is that anytime I'm going against the flow, I'm like a salmon going upstream, and I'm not interested in doing that anymore, because we can go downstream and it flows just nice. So that's the way I envision a book being written, is downstream, without all the current and interruptions and distractions. So fingers crossed.
So where can people reach you if they want to contact you?
They can reach me at my email, which is Mary at, and this is all one word, lowercase, slow and steady .live. I'm hesitant about my telephone number. A little bit like,
yeah,
a little bit, because I've done a few interviews and got pretty inundated with phone calls, and I wasn't a massive fan of that. I'm happy to ask questions through email. Happy to ask. And my husband is a graphic designer, and when I get back to Vermont, we're going to be he's going to be developing a website for me, so that's going to be in the works too. But right now, email is basically where it's at in terms of getting in touch with me.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on the show today. It was a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you, Jay. It was great to be here. Thanks for asking me the questions and let me share my story.
Thank you.